I'm bored to death right now. I feel like it's sucking all of the energy out of me. Hi, my name is Angel. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to episode 6 in my Reading Different Subgenres series, where I read different subgenres of horror. You guys can already tell that this month it is quiet horror, so as usual, in these videos, I like to teach us a little bit more about the subgenre before we get into it, so let's do that. Quiet horror is a subgenre of horror that focuses on the more subtle aspects of storytelling to unsettle the reader, rather than over-the-top, gory, or graphic scares. Quiet horror does not mean that these stories are less scary than other types of horror, just that the way the scares are delivered is different. These tend to be more slow-building, atmospheric, and psychological types of stories. The author may choose to focus on slowly building suspense and tension in order to leave the reader feeling uneasy and filled with dread, leading to one of those scenarios in which you know something is off, but you can't quite figure out what. In the article, Whispered Fears, The Art of Writing Quiet Horror by David Costello, he states that quiet horror has 5 key features: atmosphere, psychological depth, subtlety, the uncanny, and slow-burning suspense. In short, quiet horror relies on the vibes more than anything. Now that we know a little bit more about quiet horror and some of its characteristics, let's talk about our TBR. I have 3 books checked out from the library that I will be reading. First, we have The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. Then we have The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. And I have The Little Stranger by Sarah Waters. So I will be reading these 3 books physically, and then I have Last Days by Brian Evanson as an ebook, and I will be listening to The Fisherman by John Langan on audio. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. I've literally been reading this book all day, and I feel like it's sucking all of the energy out of me. What a way to start off, right? This is The Haunting of Hill House. I am just about on page 90, which is, I don't think it's exactly halfway, but it's pretty close to the halfway mark. I feel like that sounded really harsh. I'm not hating this book. It's just like, I don't know if it's just Summerween ended yesterday, and I feel like Summerween, I was riding such a high, and I was like having such a great time, and now Summerween's over, and I'm like, what's the point of anything? But I literally have been reading this all day, and I think maybe just my attention span is just not with it today. I just can't focus. I've been feeling really tired, so I don't know. Also because like nothing's happened in the book, but like that's the point. Like I picked this up for a quiet horror vlog, so I don't know why I would be expecting anything crazy. Like, it's definitely a very slow build-up. We are just getting to the point now where some strange things are happening with the house. So if you don't know the story, we have these 4 characters primarily that we're following. We have Dr. Montague, and he is, I don't know, he's this guy that's done like a bunch of like research and different experimental trials and things, and he is very kind of enamored and really interested in Hill House, and he's heard different stories over time and people talking about Hill House being haunted, and he just wants to run this experiment to gather some data and to see what people experience when staying there. So he sent out a bunch of letters to some candidates that he handpicked, and he got 2 women that responded and were willing to come. So we have Eleanor and we have Theodora. And then our other character is Luke, and he is like one of the heirs. Like, he is the one remaining family member of the original family that Hill House belonged to. Or at least he's the one that's like currently involved and going to be inheriting the house. So he's there. The 4 of them are there. They also have the like groundskeeper, and then they have like the house caretaker that cooks. why can't I remember her name? Because she's been mentioned so much. Mrs. Dudley. They are so mean to Mrs. Dudley. Not mean to her face, but they talk so much shit behind her back. I'm like, Girlie's just here to do her job. She's like, I don't fuck with this place. I don't fuck with you people. I think you're all dumb. And they're just like going behind her back and talking so much shit. It's actually kind of funny. Like, this woman is giving you elaborate spreads of food 3 times a day. Like, be nice to the lady, you know? Anyways, so they're there and they are just getting used to the house. Like I said, we're just getting to the point where some things are happening, like where they're just starting to realize how strange Hill House is, the architecture, the way it's built, the history of it. So I think this is the point where things are going to start picking up and get more intense, and I'm here for it. I'm really excited for these scares to start happening because right now it's not doing anything for me, but I like the atmosphere. It's definitely dark, it's definitely gothic, and I think that's a theme with a lot of the quiet horror books are also gothic horror books, which I think is interesting. I guess that's just 2 genres that really go hand in hand and have things that overlap. So once I get to the month where I read gothic horror, I'm like not gonna have anything left on my TBR to read for that, but we'll worry about that when we get there. Leave your gothic horror recommendations down below. I actually don't even know what month that's scheduled for, but that's not important. That's not relevant. So I just wanted to let you guys know really that I'm halfway through. I'm gonna go to bed because I'm exhausted, and then I will keep reading tomorrow. I'm hoping that I'll be able to finish it tomorrow. Hopefully my attention span will be better. Hopefully, because things will be picking up, I'll be more interested in it, but I also do have kind of a busy day tomorrow, so I don't know if I'll get too much reading done, but either way, I'll be back to update you guys. Hi guys. I am still reading The Haunting of Hill House. I'm on page 152, so I'm getting very, very close to the end. It's just like not a book that I want to pick up and keep reading, which I think a lot of people will be sad to hear me say. I appreciate it for what it is and like what it did for the horror genre. Like, I get it. You know, if it was like back in the time that this came out and I didn't have anything else to read, I'd probably like really fuck with this hardcore, but like, I don't really know what to say. Like, I was expecting this book to scare me because everybody says like it is really scary. I was expecting to be creeped out, like unsettled, but it's really not doing anything for me. Maybe it'll really, really ramp up in these last 30 or so pages, but right now it's just like not my favorite. Like, it's okay. It's really funny though, because I was reading this and I've seen the Netflix show The Haunting of Hill House, but I was thinking it reminded me of Stephen King's Rose Red, the miniseries, and then I was thinking about that and I was like, oh, and it also reminds me of this other movie. It came out in 1999 called The Haunting. I watched it many times as a kid and I was like curious because I haven't seen that movie in a while, so I looked it up, and Stephen King's Rose Red is inspired by The Haunting. And the 1999 movie is a remake of a 1963 movie of the same title, which is based off this book. So I don't know why. I'm sure a lot of people know that, but I just never knew it. And it was like just such a weird, like a really horrible, like a shitty horror movie I remember watching as a kid. And I was like, oh, it kind of reminds me of that. Well, it's the same story with the same characters, so it makes sense. Also in that movie, Owen Wilson dies, and I remember being a kid and watching it, and I just thought that like, because he died in the movie, like he died in real life. I was like, oh yeah, Owen Wilson's dead. Like, I watched him die in that movie and I just didn't think anything was wrong with that. I was like, oh yeah, you know, I just watched him die. It's fine. That was a weird little side note, but I don't have like anything to say about this. I do like some of the writing. Like, there are some really interesting quotes and like nice little pieces of writing in here. I like Eleanor, and I like that she's got some depth to her, and I think her character is interesting. The other characters really don't have a lot of depth. We don't really get to know a lot, but Eleanor is like our main character, so it does make sense that she's got more depth. But other than that, it's not really doing anything. The atmosphere is there, like the gothic atmosphere in this big like mansion that is intentionally confusing to the people that are there, but other than that, I really don't have a lot to say about this. I just want to get it over with. Like, I'm tired of reading this book. I'm really sorry to say that to anybody who was hoping that I would love this book, but it's just like, can we Can we be done with this? It's not even that long, but I want to be over with it. Ignore this. I just finished The Haunting of Hill House, took a shower, washed my hair. I'm getting ready to have a very, very late brunch right now, but I just wanted to give you guys my final thoughts. I'm very, I feel conflicted because there were things about this book that I enjoyed, but there were also things that I didn't enjoy. It wasn't bad. I see why it's loved. I see why so many people enjoy it and why it is such a well-loved classic. But for me, it was just okay. I liked, like I said, the atmosphere for sure. I liked some of the quotes. I liked Eleanor as a character. I liked the way things ended. I like, it definitely fits into the quiet horror subgenre because it's not scary in your face, but it's more of a very, very slow buildup, and it's also psychological, and those were all elements that I enjoyed. But as a whole, it's really not my favorite. I think I prefer We Have Always Lived in the Castle to this one. Those are the only two Shirley Jackson books I've read, this one and that one. I also read The Lottery when I was in school, but that's more of a short story, so I don't really count that. And I think I prefer We Have Always Lived in the Castle, even though this is her most popular and most well-loved book, I guess. I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about it. It was okay. And that's that. I'm just gonna leave it here. I think I'll give it 3 stars because I see why people like it. It just wasn't entirely successful for me. It's currently raining. I just took a dip in a pool, so that's why I look the way that I look. We are at my boyfriend's mom's little complex right now. We're staying for the weekend. It was just her birthday. But I started and finished The Fisherman today by John Langan. I started it on audio, as you guys know, because I couldn't get a physical copy or the ebook copy. They had really long hold times at my library, so I picked up the audiobook because it was available right away. So I did that at work today, ended up finishing the whole thing unexpectedly. And where should I start? Let me tell you what it's about. We start the story meeting this man, and it's a very direct-to-reader story. He is talking to us and telling us a story of his time in his life. We meet him pretty soon after his wife has died of cancer, and he's just really struggling, obviously. And then one of his coworkers at work gets into this accident that kills his wife and his 2 children. So the two of them sort of start to bond and form a friendship, not only because of this, although that is something that they can talk to each other and relate on, but they also just start going fishing together. Our main character is a fisherman. He really loves to fish, and he invites this guy out, and that's just kind of how their relationship forms. And it was very interesting. It was very deep and very complex. So their friendship is growing, and his friend comes to him one day. He's like, I just learned about this cool creek in this history book of the local area. We should go there and check it out and go fishing there. And the other guy's never heard of it. He doesn't know anything about it. He's like, okay, sure, whatever. So they're making their way there, and they stop in the local town to get some food, and they end up talking to one of the guys there, and he's like, oh, where are you going fishing? And they tell him the name of this creek, and he immediately freezes. He's like, let me tell you a story. And then pretty much the entire bulk of the book after that, the entire middle part is just hearing this man's story. So he's really telling the history of this area, strange things that have happened there, the way that the town folk dealt with it, the way that they tried to figure out what it was, and just their theories on it. And then that was really loud.
There's a bolt of lightning right behind you when you were talking.
That's cool. I thought it was on video.
There's a 6 still. I want to
Still going. So then this guy tells the story, talking about the history of this place, the things that have gone down there, and then we get back to our other two main characters and their journey to this place. Within the first 5%, the first chapter of the book, I would say, like, I knew it was going to be a 5-star. I said it out loud to myself. I was like, this is going to be a 5-star. Just before anything else, the writing was so fantastic. There were so many good quotes and just, like, deep and complex, like, issues spoken about. Obviously, like, grief and loss and the way that affects people and the way that it affects different people differently. And it was just really interesting. There were just so many good quotes that I wish I could quote to you guys, but I don't have a physical copy. I'll definitely need to get one so that I can annotate it later in the future. But the story itself was so good as well. It was creepy. It had some, like, gruesome moments, but it was definitely a very slow build-up, as will be the theme in this video. And the moments of, you know, those big, like, horror, those big events were very impactful and very descriptive. Like, the imagery was great. It was just a really, like, haunting and heartbreaking story, but just so captivating, and I really had a great time. So I would definitely recommend. It's definitely cosmic horror. It could have been a good one to read for that video as well. That's where I'm gonna leave it for now. I will see you guys when I have another update. Hi, it's like 11 p.m. It's currently raining, and I'm outside next to, like, an AC unit, so it's very loud. But I wanted to update you guys because I've been reading Last Days by Brian Evanson, and I am now like 45% of the way through, so I figured it was time to do an update. This is a strange book. Like, I don't know if this fits into the quiet horror subgenre, because I feel like the horror is very upfront, it's very in your face so far. We have this man, Klein, and we start off the book, like, we get right into the action, and we learn that something happened. He was faced with a man with a cleaver that cut off his right hand. Then he had to cauterize the wound by himself, and then he gets these strange phone calls from these guys from the Brotherhood, and they're like, we want you to come see us, like, you're one of us now because you're like an amputee. And they basically have this weird, like, amputee cult where these people are just really into, like, cutting off parts of their body, and then the more parts of their body that they cut off, the higher up they get, like, in rankings. So it's all based off of the number of things you have cut off. So if you have, like, 3 fingers gone, then you're a 3, or, like, your arms or your hands or whatever, just whatever number of different body parts you have amputated is what your number is. And then obviously the higher the number, the higher the rank, and the higher, like, the respect level and, like, the social level is there. So it's very weird. So they get this guy Klein, our main character, and they make him come there, and they're like, we need you to solve a crime for us. And it's just been very strange because they're very, like, intentionally misleading him, drugging him, doing things, like, they want him in this cult. They're not allowing him to leave, and they are forcing him to cut off pieces of his body and just really trying to get him to be a part of this group. It's very weird so far. The writing is interesting. It's, like, a lot of dialogue. And then it's also, like, it's gruesome and it's gory because of the content, but it's not, like, very descriptive when they are, like, cutting off these pieces of body. It's just like, oh, like, it was bloody and it hurt. And so I don't know how I feel about it right now. It's just strange. And I'm really interested to see where it goes. I'm sure it'll be, like, a descent into madness, like, spiral type of story, but it's weird. I'm still reading Last Days. I'm 66% of the way through. Kindle's estimating that I have, like, an hour left. What the fuck is going on? I'm so confused. I'm so lost with this book. I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand what the point is, and, like, I just don't know how to feel. I feel like I'm thinking that this book is a lot worse than it is, because I know in the order that you guys, like, are seeing this because of how I'm gonna edit it, this is book number 3, but technically how it went in order was I started The Haunting of Hill House, then I started The Fisherman, finished The Fisherman, loved it, 5 stars. Then I started this book, Last Days. Then I finished The Haunting of Hill House. And now that brings us to where we are now. So I think just like in order of how I finished it, finishing The Fisherman and finding such a fantastic book like that one, and then following it up with not really enjoying The Haunting of Hill House, and then currently reading this one that I'm not really enjoying, I feel like it's making me make the book out to be worse than it really is, but it's like, it's making me really upset and kind of mad that I'm not enjoying this book. It's just very confusing. Like, I feel like we don't really know, we didn't really learn a lot about our main character. Like, we know that something happened. He was faced with some attacker with a cleaver that cut off his arm. He had to self-cauterize the wound and then kill his attacker, but we don't really come to know, like, with the details of that situation, how it happened. He was a cop, I think, so I don't know if that happened, like, on some sort of cop duty, or, like, if he got kidnapped by somebody. I don't know. I feel like that wasn't explained. And then it's just very confusing, everything that's going on in the book. Like, obviously this cult takes him and they won't let him leave because they want him to solve this crime, but it's a crime that might not actually even have been committed, or it's just like something entirely different from what he's being led to believe. It's very hard to explain, but it's like, it's a very confusing situation for our main character because they basically want him to solve something without any evidence, without being able to actually interview people. Everybody around him believes that he's investigating a different crime. Like, some people think he's investigating a robbery, or like the spread of illegal information, or like things like that, when what he's really investigating, or what he's told he's investigating, is a murder. But then he comes to figure out that, like, maybe that's a murder actually never happened. It's so confusing, and there's so much like dialogue and just like so many weird, strange side characters that it's just like, it's making my head feel very cloudy. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm interested in it because I feel like there's definitely something deeper coming, because the way the book is presented, you know, it starts off right away with this cult of amputees that make him like cut off parts of his body. So you know that's not like the main horror focus, because it's going to build up to something more than that, right? Versus a story that builds up slower and then we get to the, oh my god, like, they're amputees that like cut parts of their body off for fun. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the big thing is presented right away, so there's got to be something deeper going on here. I really don't know if that made sense, but I'm just like so confused on this book and confused on how I feel about it, but I'm going to keep reading because I want to finish it tonight and just get it over with. Like I said, I think I have like 56 minutes left by Kindle's estimate, so I'm gonna keep working on it, and I will see you guys when I finish it. Hopefully. I don't know, I feel like it might take me a while to get my thoughts in order for a final update when we get there. Alright, it's some hours later, and I have finished Last Days. I don't get it. I don't get it with this one. This has so many high ratings, and I just don't understand. I think this is just a book that maybe I'm not smart enough for, because I just don't get it. Like, I don't get the point of anything that happened. So I was enjoying it at first, and then I learned that supposedly, like, the first part of this book, because it's split up into 2 different parts technically. So the first part is called the Brotherhood of Mutilation or something like that, and then the second part is called Last Days. But apparently the first part, the Brothers of Mutilation, was released as a novella before, and then this is where he came and added on the Last Days section of the book. And I feel like had I read it just the first part as a novella, I feel like I would have enjoyed it so much more, because I feel like that story ends off with the perfect amount of mystery, and then for the author to just come back and add like 100 more pages and then not further explain anything else that happens, like it just left me thinking, what is the point? Like, what is the point of anything that I'm reading if nothing fully gets explained? And like, I don't know, because I feel like it was just the same thing over and over and over again, and I was like, okay, where is this story going? Like, when is something going to happen? And that moment never came, and I feel really let down, because like I said, this has so many high ratings, and then I hyped it up in my head, and then I just didn't enjoy this at all. I'm not sure about a rating yet. I think maybe 2.5 stars. I don't know. Like, it just wasn't a very pleasurable experience, and I'm really sad. But that's all I want to say about this. So we're gonna move on and hope that the next one is better.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
It's been a couple of days since I last sat down and talked to you guys. What have I been doing in those last couple of days? I've been struggling my way through this book, and I've made a pretty good chunk. I think I'm like 40 something of the way through it. I have been physically reading it, I've been listening to it on audio, and I'm bored to death right now. Everybody that's reviewed this book has said like it starts off slow, but once it picks up, like it just gets going and it gets so interesting and so immersive, and I'm just like waiting for that. Okay, let me tell you what the book is about first. So this right here on the cover, this is Hundreds Hall. I think it's called Hundreds Hall, which is like this big fancy estate. Now we are in the 1940s. I think it's like post World War II or something, in the era of World War II, and the place is crumbling. It is old and decrepit and falling apart, and the family is running out of money, and they don't have money to like fix this place. It used to be this beautiful estate, like I said, where they would entertain people, love to have guests. They had a full like crew of servants and like maids and everything, and now they are struggling to keep their one little maid that they have, and it's just, everything's going to shit basically. So one of the guys that lives there, his name is Roderick. He has like an issue with his leg. So the doctor is the main character, Dr. Faraday. I have to keep checking all these names. So Dr. Faraday is our main character that we're following. His mother was actually a maid that did work for Hundreds Hall when it was like in its prime, but now he gets called out there, and he takes on this guy Roderick as his new patient, and he's like treating him for his leg, and he's making weekly visits to Hundreds Hall. And basically there's just a lot of weird shit going down, like just very creepy atmosphere, and strange and bad things seem to keep happening of their own accord in this house without going into too much detail. And Roderick is seeing some shit and nobody believes him. They're like, this guy needs to go to a mental hospital, but they don't want to do that, but they just don't believe him. They're like, you're a drunk and you're just seeing shit and hearing shit. But this guy is like clearly very terrified of the things that he's witnessing. So it's definitely got like the quiet horror elements. This is a very slow building story, and the scares aren't right there in your face. It's just more creepy and unsettling. We do have the atmosphere of Hundreds Hall and learning about how big it is and the creepy areas in it, especially because it's like crumbling and falling apart, and they can't afford to like keep all the lights on or something, so there's just like weird dark spots in this place, which just definitely adds to the atmosphere and makes it more creepy and weird. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't really like the writing. It is historical fiction, obviously. I'm not the biggest historical fiction fan, especially things that take place in this time period of like World War II. And then they're also in like Britain, somewhere in England, I don't know, but they're all British. which like doesn't actually mean anything. I don't know why I said that, but I don't know. I just really can't get into it, and I don't really find myself caring about the characters or what happens, but then I'm also like slightly curious. I don't know. These strange occurrences obviously are getting like more and more intense the further we go into the book. So I am slightly curious to see like where it's gonna go from here, but then I'm also like I said, bored to death, and this book is freaking long. So I don't know what to do. I feel like recently I've been having a really hard time like DNFing books for some reason. Like I just don't want to, even though I'm not having a good time. And this is another book where I find that that's the case, because I literally told myself today, I was like reading this and I stopped mid-chapter. First of all, these chapters are freaking long, side note. But I stopped in the middle of the chapter because I was like, I'm just not into this. I'm gonna DNF. I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna do my update, talk about everything that I've talked about, and then say I'm DNFing it and put the book down. But now I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, maybe I should give it a second chance. Maybe I should try to read more of it. So I don't know. This is where I'm at so far. So either one of two things is going to happen. This video clip is gonna end, and we're either gonna go into another video clip where I'm further along in this book and talking about my feelings on it, or we're just gonna cut it here and skip to the next book, which is the last book, which is also another ghost story. Hi, do y'all like my Christmas sloth? This is my boyfriend's shirt. We had a little Christmas in July party at work today, which, first of all, I didn't realize Christmas in July was such a big deal. Like, I literally had never heard of it until my work was like, oh, we're gonna do Christmas in July. And I guess Hallmark does like Christmas in July, where they have all Christmas movies in the month of July. There are radio stations that do like Christmas songs in July, and I'm like, I have never heard of this, and I feel like it's probably a thing that like a lot of people in the world are aware of. So I'm just curious, do you guys celebrate Christmas in July, and what do you do for that? I personally feel like celebrating early, even if it's just for a day, I feel like that takes away like the fun of Christmas, you know, because one of those things, like, I love the holidays and I love the holiday season. I love the weather of it. I love the transition from Halloween into like Thanksgiving and like more harvest times of November, and then going into Christmas in December, and then winter, like the whole 3 months. I feel like it's such a special time, and then you get like worked up, and the whole thing is like it only comes once a year, and that's why it's so special. So I feel like, in my personal opinion, celebrating in July just kind of takes away some of that specialness, but maybe I'm weird. Let me know if you guys, like, what your feelings are on Christmas in July. Anyway, I'm here just for a brief little update on The Little Stranger. So after I did my update yesterday when I was talking to you guys and thinking about DNFing it, I posted on Goodreads. I did my little Goodreads update of what page I was on, and then I said, quick, someone tell me, does this book get better, and is it worth finishing? And Mrs. Adrian Lee, who, yes, I see you, commenting on all my YouTube videos and liking all my status updates on Goodreads and liking my things on Instagram, giving me book recommendations. I appreciate it. I see you, I appreciate you, and I knew I could count on you to come through because Miss Adrian Lee commented and said, not really, and that solidified it. I was like, you know, this is a person I trust. I see that she has read the book and she gave it 3 stars, and in my opinion, I don't see it getting any more than a 3-star if I were to finish it, just because I did get literally almost halfway through. Like, if I'm not enjoying it, we should quit, right? So, bookmark is coming out. Book is going back to the library, and we're moving on to the 5th and final book for this reading vlog, which is The Woman in Black, which you guys will see in just a second. But I'm a little bit nervous now because that is 3 out of 5 books for this video are like very slow burn, like haunted house, like ghost stories. And this, obviously, DNFing it. The Haunting of Hill House, it was okay for me, so now I'm like scared about reading that one, and if that's also going to be a very mid ghost story, but we'll see. I'll come back when I start it and I'll let you guys know how I'm feeling, but we can officially say goodbye to this one. The Woman in Black. This is a pretty short book. It's only about 160 pages. First of all, this edition that I have has like little illustrations in it, which I think is just kind of fun and entertaining to look at. But I think out of the 3 like ghost stories that I've read so far for this video, this one is definitely my favorite. Let's see, to give some background, I have seen the movie, although I don't remember much from it. I think Daniel Radcliffe was in it. I remember seeing it in theaters when it first came out, but as I'm reading more of the movie is coming back to me, like I'm remembering more things as I'm reading like the descriptions in here. Basically, we're following this guy and he is a solicitor, so I don't really fully understand how it works, but I guess this woman died and I guess she doesn't have like any family or anybody to like handle her affairs, so this guy has to travel there and like sort through all her paperwork and like just get everything in order after her death. She has this big estate which they have to figure out what to do with that and all her stuff. And she lives in a very, very large house in a very secluded area. I know one of the big things that we talked about, a big characteristic of quiet horror, is building the atmosphere, and I think this does a really, really good job at that. I think the descriptions are on point. I'm able to picture everything that's going on, and I think the atmosphere in this setting is built up really well. It does seem a little bit wordy at times, where it's like a lot of description that I don't think all of it's entirely necessary. But it's interesting. I believe this was published in 1983, but it kind of feels like it's older than that, just the way that it's written. But there are some things that I'm enjoying. So we are starting to get into the haunting part of it all. He sees this woman, this ghostly figure, dressed in black, and he's like, it's very like out of style, like very kind of like older fashion, the way that she's dressed. Nobody else sees her, and then he starts to have like other things happen, like hearing things that aren't real, just a lot of things playing with his mind. But one thing I really liked was when he saw this woman for the second time and he saw the expression on her face. The way that they described it, I think, was really well. The author writes, "It was one of what I can only describe, and the words seem hopelessly inadequate to express what I saw, as a desperate, yearning malevolence. It was as though she were searching for something she wanted, needed, must have, more than life itself, and which had been taken from her." And I don't know why, I just like the way that that's explained, the way that this woman looks and like what her expression is and what she might be thinking. So I'm very curious to see where it goes from here and just like how far it picks up, how crazy, how spooky things get, or if it kind of stays really mild. I don't know. I am into it so far though, so that's a good sign. I will see you guys probably when I finish it because it's so short. So I'll be back shortly with my final thoughts. It is the next day and I just officially finished The Woman in Black by Susan Hill, and I really enjoyed this one. I think it was just a fun, like very classic ghost story, and I think it's perfect for fitting into the quiet horror subgenre because it is a very, very slow build up, and at first like it doesn't seem very urgent. It doesn't seem like our character is in danger at first. It's just kind of like subtle haunting, and then it does get dangerous, and I really like the ending, the way things wrapped up, and it's just a very chilling little ghost story. I just think it was told really well. The way that everything like unfolded at a very steady pace, and things started to escalate, and then bringing us to the end where then it's just like a little bit freaky, and it leaves off on like such a good point. It is kind of a simple story. Like I said, it's just a very classic like ghost story, a tale of a haunting. But I think that's what makes it even more fun. Like, this is just a nice little like short story that you could read like around Halloween and really enjoy if you're just trying to get something to set the mood and be very subtle with the horror, which is kind of the whole theme of quiet horror, as we've learned. I really enjoyed this. I think I would give it 4 stars. I definitely enjoyed it more than the other like ghost story-esque books in this video. So I'm really glad about that. So we did end up having a couple of wins. This one obviously being a 4-star, The Fisherman a 5-star, and let me tell you, I have not stopped thinking about that book. I think it might be a new all-time favorite of mine. Then we had a couple flops, not so good ones. But that brings us to the end of the video. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you've made it this far, I will tell you that next month we are doing a folk horror, which I am so excited for. So definitely tune into that. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you guys next time.